Welcome to the #InvestThis podcast, where the secrets for real estate investing are revealed. Now, here's your host, Scott Bauer.
Welcome, everybody, to the 56th episode of the #InvestThis podcast. I'm your host, Scott Bauer, and today we got Kasim Aslam with us. How you doing?
Good. How you doing, Scott?
I'm doing great, man. Doing really, really well. A little bit about Kasim. He's the founder and CEO of Solutions 8, which is a digital marketer, certified partner, Infusionsoft certified partner, and official Google partner, as well as the author of the 7 Critical Principles of Effective Digital Marketing. Through Solutions 8, Kasim has spent more than a decade helping over 500 organizations grow and scale using a unique, proven, and proprietary process, the Digital Business Builder. This experience fuels his presentations and has helped him to make him a foremost authority on business growth and scale in the digital age. He's worked with the largest privately owned bank in the U.S., a 54,000 member PPO, a Gates Foundation funded nonprofit, and an Academy Award contending documentary. He's also helped to build, launch, and market the National Association of Child Helplines, NAACH, and has worked on a contract basis with the United States Army, Intel, and Pearson Education. He has been published across a myriad of networks, including CRM Magazine, Search Engine Journal, Social Media Today, Emergent Path, and Explore B2B. That's a lot to come up to, Kasim.
Yeah, I knew you were going to read it all. I would have shortened it down. I'm sorry, dude.
No, I mean, I want to give a little background for the listeners, which I think that's a really good way to start this off, right?
Yeah.
Come with a lot of credibility. In the time that I've known you, you're a brilliant guy, and I'm excited to have you on the call today.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm thrilled.
So, let's talk about it. Where do you want to start off? Give the listeners a little bit more about your background and then, kind of what you're focused on now.
Sure. So I'm a failed entrepreneur many times over.
Nice.
And what I tell people is all the best marketers are really just failed entrepreneurs. And honestly, test me on that, because a digital marketer, if you throw a rock, you'll hit one. Every digital marketer that you ever meet, if you really dig into their background, you're going to find they failed at another business or 7 and then realize, the only thing I'm really good at here is the marketing facet of it, which is why I can keep getting up and going, because it's the first step, right? It's like I can market and get customers, and then I fail at everything else. And so I started in the realm of software engineering. I was building big enterprise level software, and the world collapsed on me. And it was amazing to watch happen. I was actually, you mentioned the largest privately owned bank in the nation. I was in the bank when the FDIC rolled up in their black SUVs and kicked in doors on Bank Failure Friday. Have you seen The Big Short?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so The Big Short is about the financial failure. What they don't tell you is The Big Short is actually about a bank. There's one bank that brought down Lehman Brothers. I was at that bank. So the analogy that I give people is if the economic collapse was a meteor that hit the earth, I was in the building that the meteor hit. And it sucked for me because my collapse started before everybody else knew that the whole economy was coming down. I lost my house. I lost my car. I was going on the weekends. I would go to Costco on Saturday and Sunday, and I'd walk around and eat the free tryouts, like the little ladies with the stocking caps that would.
Oh, yeah.
That was my lunch, dude. Like, I was so beyond broke, like utterly destitute. I lived in an apartment building that was giving away 3 months free. And that's the only way I could move in. It was a $150 application free, and then you got 3 months free if you sign an 18-month lease. Like, it was just over for me. And that's the genesis of my marketing career. And so that's where I come from. There's a lot of, we'll call it like entrepreneurial PTSD, but it was the greatest learning lesson I've ever had in my entire life. So I bring a lot of that sort of with me. Like, I had what I thought was a successful career that tanked. And now I'm kind of on my iteration 2, which is a fun place to be as an entrepreneur. You've kind of taken some licks and earned your stripes.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to put it. I mean, you earned your stripes, right? Yeah. Nothing is super simple, super easy. I could say that, I've been very blessed in the ability to be able to build a business now that is profitable and has, overall things are going very, very strong. But there's definitely been pitfalls throughout the way, right? And it's not simple. And
right.
It continues to not be simple. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about on your marketing side, how marketing is, it's a challenging beast out there, especially with all the competition.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's, it's not just the competition that bugs me, it's the noise. You open up Facebook and you see some douchebag saying, oh, look, I spent $4 and I got 500 leads in 2 hours and follow me and here's how I did it. And there's always a little small root of truth in it, which makes it dangerous. but they don't tell you that the leads were actually in Sri Lanka and you don't want to buy any of those houses. You know what I mean? Like it's just a cesspool, because the barrier to entry for my industry is a laptop. You go to Best Buy, you spend $300, you don't have to print business cards anymore. And all of a sudden you're a freaking digital marketer. You're taking one course online and sifting through the noise and figuring out who really knows what they're doing. That's the hard part.
That's interesting. I mean, I haven't really thought about it that way, but of course that's the absolute truth, right? You go and you buy a laptop, you connect to the internet, now all of a sudden, boom, you're a digital marketer.
Right.
And you can make a business card or whatever you want, right? So you lost it all in 2008. This is 2008. You were at the place where the crash started. Basically,
Yep.
What bank was that at?
It was First National Bank of Arizona. They were the largest privately owned bank in the nation.
Okay. Shoot, I was actually reaching out to them, talking to them about some lending operations. So that's funny you say that. But anyways, what happened at that point? So walk us back to 2008. What happened through 2010? When did you start to get out of the rut? If you were in a rut, let's talk about that.
Oh, dude, I was in a rut. I was soaking in a bathtub of gasoline, lighting matches. Like there's, I'm so, not to get too personal, but I think the context is important. I was a poor kid. Grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, blind single mother on Social Security disability, like no money. And I started my business when I was 19 years old. I was a month away from 20, and I was making way more money than a 19-year-old should make, period. But if you hand money, and you see this with NBA players, if you hand poor kids money, like they just go insane. And I did that. I had the house on the hill, and I had the asshole's car, and I always picked up the check, and I was getting $200 haircuts, and I was just a douchebag. And I really identified with this whole thing. And it was interesting because it was the most important lesson I've ever learned about money. When the collapse came, I realized I had nothing. Like I thought I was worth something. You know what I mean? I had a nice house and a nice car. And I realized that I was living on complete, total, absolute vapor. Like I had zero margin of error whatsoever. And the collapse came, and that was proven to me instantly, because all of this money that I made was non-existent. All these friends I thought I had were non-existent. And then I had no stuff. And I had no way to support myself. The thing about building enterprise software is it's usually 1, 2, or 3 years to complete this application. And you get 5% up front. The rest of it you float on an SBA loan. So you're getting 5% of this, it's a 7-figure bill, let's say. They give you 5%, and then all of your labor and everything that you need to do and outsource and hire, you fund yourself. And then when you're done, then they give you a great big check. So when my business failed, I had receivables that were never going to get paid. I had deliverables that I obviously had to pay. I almost didn't make payroll. I made payroll, which is something I'm really proud of, because there's a lot of companies that let employees high and dry. I didn't do that. I avoided bankruptcy, but I had to tank my credit in order to do that. And I was so depressed, dude. Like it was unbelievable, because I was like, how could this possibly happen again? Like I started poor. I thought I wasn't poor. And now here I am, it just felt unjust. But in order to feed myself, I started trolling Craigslist for website work. It's like, you have a broken image on your website and you don't know how to fix it. And I was doing that for give me $20 and I'll fix your website. And I didn't really appreciate it in the very beginning, what it did for me, but it was so humbling and so important. It was a really important experience for me to have. But what ended up happening is I started building websites for people, which I didn't enjoy at all, because being a website developer is like being a wedding photographer. You can't help that the bride is fat. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing you can do about that, but people blame you anyway. But what I did enjoy is after the website was built, people would be like, oh, well, how do I get found? What do I do with this? And I would say, I don't know, like best of luck to you. But you hear that so many times as an entrepreneur, and you start to say, okay, there's something here. So my marketing career started in search engine optimization. And I got really good at it. There are very few people on the planet that know what I know about SEO, which is why I don't offer it as a service anymore. And from there, dude, it just took off, and it's been rocket fuel ever since. Was that too much, Scott? Am I going off on a tangent, dude? I'm sorry.
No, not at all. Really, I think that's great context to really get this call moving forward, because that is a good transition into kind of what you're doing now. Actually, in episode number 52, we had Greg Bilbro on, which is your business partner. Am I right? Or
yeah, he is.
One of them.
Yeah, I own a couple different entities. So Greg and I collectively, we own a company called GeoFlip with one other partner of ours, and GeoFlip helps real estate investors make money online.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really solid little business, actually.
Right. And so, those of you that have, all the listeners out there that listen to episode 52, you're going to have a little bit of an idea of what that is. But is that not your primary focus? Is that not the main thing that you're focused on now? Or, is it just a piece of it?
It's interesting. I want to help people with what I call targeted lead generation. So I feel like my responsibility now is I take people that have problems, and I take people that have solutions, and I connect them. And in a world where we all want to be the good guy, my hope is that I'm finding people that have problems that are worthy of being solved, and I'm finding the right solution for them, and I'm connecting them. The way I look at that is, you're not my client. Your customer, your potential customer is actually my client. So if you're a dentist and I don't believe that you're the right type of dentist, I don't want to market for you, because my client isn't you. It's your prospective patient. And that gets a little, I don't know what, man, soapboxy, but that's how I feel. So what I've done is I've used Solutions 8 as an incubator. Solutions 8 is my core agency. We have 70 some odd recurring clients, and we take them from every industry, but we do targeted lead generation for them, usually using something like Google AdWords, or it's Google Ads now. Well, what's cool about that is it allows me to see what industries are successful. So then what I do is I spin off market-specific agencies for those industries. So like the one that we just launched just a few days ago, specifically for integrated medical chiropractors. So if you're a chiropractor, but you also do like hormone replacement therapy or PRP or medical weight loss, I know, because we spent 2.5 years building a campaign for this, I've got one of the highest performing campaigns in that niche, and I know for a fact I can help you. So we use Solutions 8 as the incubator, and then we spin off a specific vertical, but it's all the same engine driving it all. So GeoFlip it was the first and definitely the largest of those verticals. We have the highest performing real estate investment campaign on the planet, and I can prove it with data. I would go toe to toe and head to head with anybody who says otherwise. And what we've been able to do now is we provide real estate investment leads for one partner in every major geo. And we made that decision because it's the only high integrity way to run Google Ads. If I'm a Google Ads manager and I take 2 guys on in Phoenix, I now have to choose who wins. And I don't care what other people tell you. You're going to hear ad managers who just want, they want the business. So they're going to say that there's ways around it, and, it's not that big a deal. And there's just really think about it logically. There's 4 ads showing up at the top of every search. You know what I mean? Like we're dealing with a rate limiting step.
Yep.
There's no way around. So people that tell you that they can have multiple clients in the same geo bidding on the same key phrases, I don't want to say that they're lying, but they're deluding themselves at an absolute minimum. So GeoFlip focuses on one real estate investment client in every city, and then we make them the biggest, baddest REI guy in that city, guy or gal, assuming that they can field online leads. That's the tough part, because online leads they're not direct mail leads. They're not bandit sign leads. You have to be on them like white on rice on a paper plate in a snowstorm. And if you're not, then it's probably not the right vertical for you.
Right. And you know what? That's one of the biggest challenges. I had told Greg I spent probably somewhere around $50,000 on online marketing and didn't have any success. But the reason why wasn't necessarily, the lead quality I was getting was terrible.
Yep.
That easily could probably be fixed. The other side of it was that you got to be there now, quick. Yeah. Because
your lead quality is key phrase sculpting, by the way. I know how to fix that, and it takes a long time. That's why you can't just jump into PPC. We've done 6.5 years of this. And I know there's a difference between house and home in terms of what I'm bidding on. I know there's a difference between buyer, and buying. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but I know that like one is worth a whole lot more than the other. And if you just like dive right in and start hemorrhaging money, you're going to eat up a lot of funds on irrelevant key phrases. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
No. That's fine. I think that it's important though to really understand, kind of, I don't know. I gave up on the online marketing at that time because it just was costing me a lot of money and my return wasn't great. However, I know what's coming in the future. I would be ignorant to say that in the future, online and internet is not going to run more of our life. It already runs most of our life. But let's be real, as time goes on, it's going to run more of it. And so if you're not in any sort of online marketing in any industry that you're in, you're probably going to get beat out over time. That's a problem, right? If you're not, and right now I'm barely in any sort of online marketing. I just haven't been because of the reason I just told you. I'm still seeing results with traditional marketing types. But as we continue to move forward, that's going to change. And I think it's going to change exponentially as time goes on, right? As we know about technology, it goes like this. It doesn't just, it's not slow and steady, but it is absolutely something that explodes. And so I don't want to be left in the dirt, so to speak. And that's exactly what's going to happen unless I take action. So let's talk about more the nuts and bolts of, all your businesses together. They're all online marketing types, right?
Dude, they're all Google Ads. My entire business is built on the foundation that is Google Ads, plus some sprinkling of, content marketing or email marketing or Facebook retargeting or whatever. But Google is our foundation because Google is, I think, the strongest and most underrated advertising mechanism on the planet.
Why do you say that? Elaborate on that for a minute.
So it's where intent begins. I heard, this isn't me, this is a guy named Scott Galloway. Scott Galloway did this talk at a conference, and he gets up there and he says, Google is God. And immediately it takes you back because it's blasphemous. But he explains why. If you think 20,000 years ago, and really put yourself in this frame, because it's important to understand this context. If you think about 20,000 years ago, if your child was sick, you ask the question, is my son going to be okay? And I'm a dad, and that's so important. It's like, is my son going to be okay? And you have no one to ask that question to 20,000 years ago, because you know 100 people and you never traveled 5 miles outside of where you were born, right? So you ask that question to God. God used to be the entity to whom we pose all of our questions. Flash forward to today. You go to Google and then you say something like symptoms for I don't know what, the cold and flu or sinus, or the entity to whom we are now posing all of our questions is Google. And the fact that we haven't really internalized the importance of that, I think, is our downfall. I wrote an article for Forbes about the echo chamber and about how we're using things like Google and Facebook to feed our cognitive dissonance, but Google doesn't give you the information that you need. It gives you the information you're most likely to respond to. Google knows, get this, dude, they've proven this definitively. Google knows a woman is pregnant before she does. Google knows your demographic and psychographic profile. They know your buying patterns. They know your eating patterns. They know when you go to sleep. They know where you travel. They know whether or not you speed. Think about that, dude. Like, when you have Google in your pocket, you're using Google Maps. They know if you're going, if you start here and you go there and you get there faster than 45 miles an hour allows, they know, oh, Scott's a speeder. Now, if I sell car insurance, isn't that some shit that you want to know?
Yeah.
Google, dude, they know everything. And it's all, here's the best part, is it's intrinsically qualified data. Facebook knows what you tell it. Google knows what you ask it. And that's a whole different scenario. That's, you want to talk about lag and lead indicators. Google is where intent begins. And so I'll give you a very specific example. One of the services we used to offer, we don't offer this anymore, but we would build custom websites for people. And I found out that about half of all the custom websites I built came from website rebuilds. And there were people that had been hacked, because websites get hacked all the time. And so when people started Googling fixes for hacks, how do I fix my hacked website, or Googling specific names of hacks, because hacks all have like names the same way hurricanes do, I would bid on those for a website rebuild. Because when you go and say, I want my hack to be fixed, I know you actually don't want your hack to be, you're not looking for a fixed hack, you just want a solution. And I had the solution that I knew was coming. So if you can begin to identify the intent that signals the catalyst for whatever purchase behavior you're looking for, you can move further up in the sales funnel. Real estate investors go after people that have going through divorce. So if somebody's searching for a divorce attorney, now it's not going to work, right? Because it's not that linear. But if somebody's searching for a divorce attorney, that is the beginning of the signal of intent that they are going to have potential financial issues. And so if you can find a way, and Google has, to catalog those people, you now have, I think, the greatest marketing mechanism on the planet. And anybody who thinks that Google is equal to anything else doesn't understand the place it holds in our hearts as a society. It's either 1 in 4 or 1 in 5, but let's say 1 in 5, just so I'm not being unfair. 1 in 5 searches that Google sees, it's never seen before. That means that humanity's question base is growing. As Google gives us more information, we are, as a collective entity, seeking out further information. Like, that's insane, right? We're never going to reach the end. It just continues to grow. And they say that Google only has 66% market share. That's per capita. Google has 99% market share by search, meaning the people that actually search use Google. So the whole world is going to Google, telling it everything. I know when the market is going to shift before you do. And I'm not trying to be combative, but I can see where impression share goes down, who's searching for what, how much clicks are worth. I get to see when we stop getting motivated seller leads and it's other real estate investors trying to dump property. Like, that intent is so important for us to have. And I feel like, dude, I'm 18 months ahead of the curve here. Like, nobody else has really figured it out that Google is the finger to the pulse of every industry ever. And I realize I sound like a fanatic. I'm a scientist.
The scariest part is you're spot on. There's so much truth in what you just said. And it's very interesting. I mean, the fact that 1 in 5 questions that is asked to Google, as Google has never seen before, is kind of eventually there's going to be a cap, right? Eventually that number is going to go down, or something is going to change where, well, I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll continue to ask more questions, but that is a powerful, Google's such a powerful thing. I go to Google every time I have a question, I go to Google, just like everybody else does. Right. And it's kind of scary to think about how much power that has held within it. I mean, really, an insurance company, you're right. I'm a speeder. I'm going to go ahead and say that. I'll raise my hand. I'm a speeder. I speed everywhere. I got a problem with it. But that's because I like to move quick, right? Which is why I use Google, because it moves quick. But how do we leverage that when it comes to business, right? And that's, I think, what you've been able to solve, or what you continue to be able to solve, right? Is how can you leverage the power of Google, the power of search engine optimization, or what people are looking for, to be able to better find out, how to find motivated sellers, or how to find distressed properties, or how to find buyers out there that are buying this distressed properties, or whatever it might be, right? So talk about that. I mean, how has that progress been? Is it hard to? No, it's not hard. There's tons of people out there that are looking for your service.
It's hard to get down to the nuts and bolts of what really works, because you need somebody who's going to stick with you long enough to see it through to fruition. And you also need people that are willing to go through peaks and valleys. I'm about to poke some of my clients in the ribs. So if my clients are listening right now, I'm sorry, but I'm putting you on blast a little bit. This is recent. This happens all the time. We had a guy come through. He just pulled down 2 deals. I think he did $60K between the 2 of them. And that was in, just call it week 1 for our little timeline. And then in week 2, he had a whole string of shit leads. Am I allowed to curse on this podcast, Scott? I'm sorry.
Yeah, hell yeah, do it. Yeah.
Forgive me. In week 2, we got a 911 alert saying PPC doesn't work, everything's broken, I want to cancel. And it's like, dude, you just made, but there's this recency bias when it comes with online marketing. And I think part of it has to do with the psychological impact of the way Google charges. You get a $500 bill every couple of days. And so you're just constantly being reminded, like, man, these guys are just hemorrhaging money. What you don't realize is I have the most effective marketing solution in the world at play for you. And that's just the fuel that makes it go. But what's funny about this is week 3, he had another, I think he has an AB, like a property under contract, and he's going to make something significant. I don't remember the number. And all of a sudden, PPC is the greatest thing. And this all happened within the span of a month. Like within the span of a month, you see this, and we all do this. It's the entrepreneurial heart tick, right? It's like, oh, I'm a genius. I'm an idiot. I'm a genius. I'm an idiot. But when you apply it with something that moves as quickly as Google, the problem with Google is you can do things like that. If you're doing direct mail, you have to let the drop permeate, right? It takes 6, 8, 12 weeks. You don't have the opportunity to let that little voice in your head make all those little teeny tiny micro changes. With Google, I'm at the mercy of my clients, and these aren't, everybody thinks they're logical. You're not everybody's being as logical as they think that they're being. So one of the benefits I had is I started as Greg's vendor before I was his business partner. We went 8 months before we made a dime. Like, that's scary for a real estate investor to do. He's throwing thousands of dollars into this machine, and I'm telling him, hey, I need time. And he's listening. And that's what it took. Now, our clients don't go 8 months before making money, but that's because Greg paid the price that was the knowledge acquisition. Here's what's really interesting, though, is when we started in Phoenix, our cost per acquisition on a lead landed about $450, which is pretty good, because Sean Terry on a webinar told us that his cost per acquisition in Phoenix was $550. So we were doing a little bit better than Sean. And I would expect to, because I'm a professional digital marketer, right? But good for Sean, because his was pretty good too. But we're at $450. And I think that was about 6 years ago. Flash forward to today, and our cost per acquisition on a lead is $70.
$70?
Not consistent, right? Because it's peaks and valleys. So it's going to go up, it's going to go down. If a new Open Door came in and started hemorrhaging money one day, and they destroyed the Phoenix PPC market, which will happen, but they realized it wasn't sustainable, so it came back. So you have to be willing to weather those peaks and valleys, but you have to stay consistent, because if you stop and come back, Google penalizes you, which I can't prove, but I've seen. But here's what's interesting is I've brought $450 down to 70. Call it 100, because I'm accounting for peaks and valleys. The only way I can do that is by finding little teeny tiny patterns in the Phoenix metro area, coupled with the demographics and the key phrases we're bidding on, and the ad copy that we're using, and conversion optimizing over time. It took us years and years and years and years and years and years to do this. And then I have to do that for every single city. And there are some patterns that carry over and some patterns that don't. But what Google allows me to do is, if I can connect revenue back to the original search, I get to see the fact that, hey, people who search for sell my house fast are more likely to sell me their property than people that search for sell my home fast. It produces the same amount of leads at roughly the same cost, and they appear anecdotally to be the same quality. But if you go all the way through to your sales funnel, if you use the word house, you're more valuable to me than if you use the word home. Anecdotally, I think it's because people that use the word house don't have the same psychological attachment to the property. If you're calling it a home, you're probably a little bit closer to it. I can't prove that either, but I do know that house is more valuable than home. Take that one knowledge bite that took us about 2 years to learn, and then apply that to the over 1,500 key phrases that we're bidding on. Right? And it's not just key phrases. It's what ad copy works with what key phrase, what landing page works with what ad copy. So it's an immense a web of data. But if you're a data nerd and you know how to look at it and you know how to tweak things, and I think you do, Scott, because I think you do this with direct mail, then you start to kind of piece this puzzle together, and then you build this machine that just rains leads. And I don't want to overstate it either, because it can Like things impact it. The market impacts it. I can't force people to search, right? I can't stop a real estate investor who's bought a property stupidly from clicking on your ad and costing you $50 or whatever it costs us, and then calling you up. Like I have no impact over some of those things. But where it does work, I think it's the most effective marketing channel in existence.
So, and you're right. I mean, I've been able to figure out this direct mail thing over the last same 5 years. I mean, 5 years sending a shit ton of direct mail, you figure out how to make it work, right? You figure out all the variables that cause you to get a deal or cause you to not get a deal, where you're throwing money away. But how does somebody make a transition? So let's say that I was going to transition and start saying, okay, I'm going to start getting into Google AdWords, pay-per-click. I'm going to hire you and GeoFlip. But I also want to continue having my direct mail stuff run because I know that works.
Right.
Today that works. Is there good overlap that you can do there? I mean, is it for the lay person out there, I guess?
If you're trying to do it yourself, there's two answers here. First of all, the first answer obviously is hire GeoFlip because we're amazing. Here's why. Let me talk you out of it though. Here's why you don't want to hire GeoFlip. And this, I'm being serious. I'm not trying to do a takeaway. We own all the IP. We own the sites, we own the collateral, we own the Google ad campaign, we own everything. You get nothing. So now we do that because it's intellectual property that we developed over 7 years. It'd be like if I asked you to do a direct mail campaign for me. Even if you said yes, you're not going to let me see where you source your list, how you source your list, what your mail looks like, right? Like that's proprietary data. It's worth so much more than you could ever sell it for.
Yep.
Same thing with my Google ads campaign. I'm not going to give it to you. So you're under the umbrella of my brand, which means that you're building no brand equity. Which if you just want motivated seller leads, that's fine. We're a perfect fit. But if you want to do what you just said, which is, hey, I want a long-term transition into PPC, you probably shouldn't hire us. Maybe at that point, what I would do is I would go find some ninja smart kid, and I really mean that. There's some 19-year-old playing Fortnite in his basement who could crush Google. And then, but then what you have to do is you have to do what we did. And you have to hemorrhage thousands of dollars over months. And, you know, I mean, call it, you spent 50 grand. I think if you spent 50 grand over 8 months, you could probably figure out Google inside of your market. But you need to keep that kid, and he's an expensive kid. And I know that because I was that kid a few years ago, and I took half of Greg's company. You know what I mean? So like it's a tough transition to make. I wish I could tell you it's easy. I'm glad I can't though, because it's what keeps me in business.
Right.
I'd be really, really skeptical of agencies. Agencies lie. Look at their pricing. Agencies they want to pay a percentage. I do this. I charge as a percentage of spend, which means the more money you spend, the more money that I make. Now, my justification to my clients is you're not going to spend money if you're not making money. So as we scale together, and my costs really do go up with spend. But agencies tell you things like, oh, we can have multiple people in the same geography and they're not competing. I don't do that for any business. But most agencies won't tell you that. So I get really trepidatious with agencies unless they have a proven track record inside of your market. We've gotten poked in the ribs recently by a competitor a couple of times publicly. They've used our names. And at one point on a webinar, he called us disgusting. He said, GeoFlip is disgusting because their pricing is so expensive. And responding to that directly, what he doesn't understand is I take one client in every city. What are there, 150 viable MSAs? I have a ceiling on my business. I can take one in every city. He'll take as many clients in a city as it allows. But the reason I do that, my model is higher integrity. Because I am now committed to you. I'm dedicated to you. I'm going to make sure you're the most successful person in the city. He has to pick who his favorite is, regardless of whether or not he'll admit to that. And so because I have that ceiling, I have to charge a premium. There's no way around it. But anyway, directly stated, I think if you wanted to transition away from traditional and you didn't want to hire somebody like GeoFlip, if you wanted to build your own brand equity, I'd go find myself that wicked smart ninja kid. Is that a good answer, dude? I'm not trying to be a fence sitter.
No, not at all. I mean, that's a great answer. I think it's a smart way to go about it. And it depends on what you want, right? What I've figured out in my business is that I focus on what I'm good at and I outsource everything else. I can tell you, I don't want to learn SEO. I don't want to learn Google AdWords. It's not my forte. That's not what I like to do. I like to build relationships with people like yourself. So then you can go do it because that's what you're great at, right? But so, you know, that's for another conversation another time. Where do you feel that things are going to go? 5 years from now. The last 5 years have been magical when it comes to how technology has changed our universe. I mean, you think about it 5 years ago, what the Apple Watch wasn't even here, I don't think. You know, all the technology, I mean, I don't even know where to start. But
smartphones weren't smart 5 years ago.
Right.
Smartphones weren't smart. Like the things that your smartphone does now, it didn't do 5 years ago. I totally agree with you. It's entirely changed landscape. 5 years from now, I won't have a job. Well, let me back up. I won't have the same job. There are scales of efficiency that are taking place inside of the realm of digital marketing that will ultimately commoditize somebody like me out of it. the danger there is we're going to end up in a very monopolized market. And I think there's going to be some shifts that need to take place, honestly, specifically in the realm of antitrust. Google is a monopoly. There's no question. They're by definition a monopoly. Facebook is a monopoly. There's no question. Amazon, Apple's kind of getting there. They're going to own ecosystems that are more important to humanity than things like healthcare. For instance, Google owns the information you're exposed to. And this is where it gets scary, because if you're a Republican, you're more likely to see right-leaning information. If you're a Democrat, you're more likely to see left-leaning information. Well, Google is going and is already able to kind of veer the way you think based off the information that it delivers. I think in 5 years, Google will either be selling motivated seller leads or maybe buying houses, right? Like they're going to get so close to the end result that they will have commoditized all of us out of our ability to find that margin unless something takes place first. So, yeah, I think that mass aggregation of information, we all call it big data. It's going to be really interesting, man. And you hear some people talking about things. That's why you have billionaires talking about universal income. They're talking about universal income because the smartest people in the world are talking about just paying everybody some amount of money because they all see in 5 years we're going to have nothing to do. Like it's all going to be completely automated outside of under us. So, and I'm not trying to be doom and gloom, but it's something that we need to talk about and need to address. It's going to be interesting. I'm a smart guy. I'll be fine. You know, I'm making a ton of money. I'll have some money. I'll make money then too. But for folks that if you're on an assembly line somewhere, I don't know what you're going to do. I just have no idea what's going to happen there.
The reality of life, man. That is absolutely the reality of life. And I think you hit it on the head. It's going to be interesting to see where in 5 years from now, where things are at. Yeah. How old are your kids?
2 and 4.
Okay. So I've been dating the same girl for a while. She's got a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
6-year-old is on this iPad anytime she possibly can think about it. Right. And it drives me crazy because I want her to go out and ride her bicycle. I want her to go play outside. I want her to go do the things that I did when I was a kid.
Yep.
But then I think about it, and it's not that what she's doing is a bad thing. It's just a different way to, it's a different way of life, right? So it's a different way to digest information. And what she knows at 6 years old is remarkable. I mean, it is absolutely brilliant. So 5 years from now, I mean, that once again, the technology, it's skyrocketing exponentially. And that goes for human interaction, that goes for how humans are going to interpret information, right? And so, I don't know. 5 years is, I can't even predict what it's going to look like.
Yeah. With my kids, I'm with you actually. I limit my kids' screen time. They do get some screen time because I think it's important and you want them to be able to engage with their environment. But I think where we're lacking now, you and I had a conversation about employing people before the call started. What we have now is an overeducated ecosystem of people that don't know how to work hard. I'm sorry if I just offended everybody, but that's my belief. Our children are going to be that. You're going to have, your girlfriend's 6-year-old daughter or my son, they're going to have availability of information. They're going to know how to interpret that information. They're going to be brilliant. They're not going to functionally know how to get hit in the face. And I use that analogy on purpose. My son was at a park and a kid came and hit him. And my son came crying to me and he said, that kid hit me. And I said, go hit him back. And that sounds like the worst thing a parent can do in our weird little touchy-feely ecosystem. I think that's so important. I think you need to be able to get hit in the face or fall down and scrape your knee or go rake some leaves. Do you remember chores? You remember how hard it was to mow the lawn?
Oh, yeah.
People aren't going to have that tactile, like you're going to have all the information and all the intelligence in the world. But you know what I can do that other people can't do and what you can do that other people can do is I can work 18 hours. I can work an 18-hour day like it's nothing. And I need my kid to be able to do that. And the analogy I use is get hit in the face. I think that if we're preparing our children for the future, I think that they need to get hit in the face a couple times and also know what it's like to lose and have people respond when those things happen. So I'm not asking kids to go out and seek fights at all. That's not what I'm saying, but you know what I mean? Like I think there needs to be some feet on the street connectivity between what it is that we're doing and what we're learning. And that's the way to prepare your kid in 5 years because everybody's going to be smart. Who gives a shit? But if you can, build a wall, go Google Will Smith's talk about building a brick wall. Like if you can just stick to something and be a little cold or be a little hungrier or go through some of the things that the rest of the society is not being acclimated to do, you're going to become the most valuable asset available.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Grit, I think is
grit. Dude, what a great word. You're right. Yeah.
Grit is, you have to have grit. It has to be tough. You have to suffer through. I mean, on the other side of suffering is where you see, victory, right? So if you're not suffering at all, you should not get any victory. I think that's just how the universe works.
Right.
Flat out. So anyways, man, Kasim, it's been great kind of understanding. We talked a lot on this call about what technology is doing to our universe in all reality. I mean, how you're taking the information and data out there and applying that to being able to run business or gain leads or market correctly. And you're doing it on a very educated level, which I think is something that differentiates you and GeoFlip from other companies out there, like we talked about. Are you ready for a lightning round? We're coming up on time here. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm down.
All right, man. What is your hashtag invest this tip to keep our listeners moving forward?
Operate with integrity. I really think that, and I'm not saying that because Jesus says so or because your mom told you to. I think that it's because your reputation is the most important thing that you have, and everybody's going to know everything that you do in the future.
That's huge, man. Yep. Matter of fact, this is such a small world, and we're so connected via the internet that everybody knows if you fuck up, right?
Yeah.
If you don't do what you say you're gonna do one time, it's gonna get leaked out, and everybody's gonna know about it. And that's just the reality of
Yeah.
it. Have you had a favorite book that you've read that has been very impactful, either in your life, your business, both, just something that really stands out?
The favorite book of all time is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. The book I'm reading right now that's blowing me away is Jordan Peterson's Maps of Meaning, which, dude, I have to stop every paragraph just to take in what he's saying. It's so dense, but in a really good way.
What is it? What's it called?
It's called Maps of Meaning, and it's by Jordan Peterson. He's a clinical psychologist that I'm obsessed with. I think he's the smartest thinker we have right now. I think he's really important.
What book is Greg reading right now I just talked about Jordan Peterson with somebody else. I thought it was Greg.
Could have been. Jordan Peterson's other book is called 12 Rules of Life. Those are the only two that he's written. Greg, I think right now is reading Nudge.
Yeah, he's reading Nudge. I bought that book last time we met.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I'm gonna grab that. I mean, I love those books that really make you think, right? Where you got to stop and you got to be like, they take a long time to read, but it's impactful for you, right?
Yeah. And watch Jordan Peterson's YouTube videos if you have some time, dude. It's the best investment I think I've made in a really long time. Is just listening to that man speak.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to do that. What about advice? I met you at a mastermind the first time originally, and who's giving you the best advice out there?
Dude, it's about money. This comes from my mom. My house is paid off, but I live in a shoebox. My car is paid off, but I drive a little Kia, 6-speed. It's base. I have zero debt, and I can't begin to tell you the impact it's made on me. I can hire people other people can't afford to hire because I can spend time training them. I can fire clients people can't afford to fire. I can make decisions that are right long-term. And most people my age would have bought a Ferrari right now. And there's something about just having the money. And I don't mean that to be shallow, and I'm not trying to brag, but it's been the most important thing I've done for myself from a business perspective, period.
That's probably that's very, very, very great advice. It's very easy, especially with technology and social media today, where everything is shiny, right? Everybody has this or they have that. And if you don't have that, you're not worth anything.
Right.
Which is absolutely the falsehood. And I mean, I'm guilty of it because I like to spend money and I like to buy toys. That's my thing. And I will probably always be that way because I've been like that since I was a kid.
Sure.
But at the same time, I've also another coach of mine just recently we were talking about. He's like, man, just stack up so you have a big fat stack of cash sitting in the bank, and it's going to change how you think of things.
Yep.
It's going to change how you think about things, right? Get rid of all your debt. Get rid of all the stuff you don't need. Try to live a minimalist life, and just it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you sharing that. How do you like to get back, man?
Kiva is my favorite thing. Microloans to emerging entrepreneurs. We give a lot. That's my little selfish indulgence. My wife she has a degree in international human rights. She was what I would consider to be a philanthropist. So I've got a whole list of nonprofit organizations we've supported on my website. It's over 50. I don't like to give in a way that doesn't find cyclical value. So I don't like just giving to a soup kitchen, for instance, because someone's just going to eat that and shit it out and it's going to be over. I'd rather invest in somebody's knowledge, business, something that, like teach a man to fish. And I think that we need to be responsible in our giving. That's why when I go through Safeway and they're like, do you want to give $1 to the whatever? I'm like, no, I don't know what your charity navigator score is. I don't know what the CEO makes. The CEO of Goodwill makes $36 million a year. For some reason, I'm just not okay with that. I don't mind people making money, but not, you know what I mean? Like that to me is just a little too far considering that context. So I want an ROI on my giving. I look at it as an investment. We have I think we're at 1,000 Kiva loans. We've loaned 1,000 people money on Kiva, and it comes right back. You make no money, obviously. You lose a little bit to inflation, and then you lend it out again. And so it's just nonstop cyclical investment. It's pretty cool.
That's very cool, man. That's very, very cool. I've actually never heard of Kiva, or I don't think I've heard of Kiva.
Yeah, kiva.org, Kiva.org. You lend money. So like there's some gal in Papua New Guinea that wants to buy a chicken so she can sell the eggs. You lend her money, and then she buys a chicken, and over 18 months she pays you back. And it's changed the landscape of the planet. It's a pretty amazing organization. We're
going to make sure to include that in the show notes, and that'll lead me up to our next question. How can the listeners reach you if they want to learn more about how they can get involved with either GeoFlip or with any of your other organizations that want some online marketing help, whatever it might be, and or be able to give to Kiva other than just going to the website? How can they find you?
I've got a personal website that's probably the easiest and the fastest. It's my first name, Kasim, Kasim.me, Kasim.me. And you get to see my little ode to myself, my digital narcissism. And I've got a link to our Kiva profile and some of the other businesses I own.
Oh, man, that sounds awesome. It has really been a pleasure having you on here. I think that the listeners probably have been, exploded with information and probably really enjoyed it. I mean, I know I did. So thank you for being here, and we'll look forward to keeping in touch with you.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks for having me, Scott. Appreciate you.
All right, man. Talk to you soon. See ya.
Make sure to like, subscribe, and share this podcast to help us spread the word. Go ahead and reach out to Scott Bauer on all the social media outlets for suggestions on topics and guests for the show. And check out investthispodcast.com for more secrets and resources to achieve real success in real estate.